Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today I'm going to tell you the top 5 tractors that I would buy in 2024. Now, we're going to be focusing specifically on 50 to 60 horsepower tractors because that's the size of tractor that I want to buy. But also, pretty much all of my commentary throughout this video would apply to any other size of tractor. And if you ask me my top 30 horsepower tractors I would buy in 2024, the list would probably be in the same order. But specifically, I'm focusing on the 50 to 60 horsepower tractors because that's what I just got. I have my own new tractor right behind the camera that I'll show you at the end. I also have a special offer from the dealership that I got my tractor from that might be able to save you guys some money. Before I start listing off my top 5 tractors, I've got a couple caveats. The first caveat I want to give is that I'm nobody special and my opinion is no more valuable than yours. The only thing I have, I guess, for credibility is that I've actually went and invested time researching each of these models in person, talked to the salesman, the manufacturer. In many cases, I brought the tractors here to the property and got to run them. I tried to do the best job I could to learn about these tractors and also talk about the prices. Over the last month, I've published a video reviewing a 50 to 60 horsepower tractor from every single brand. There may be one out there that I couldn't find or didn't get to, but basically I covered the entire market. So if you're interested in one of these tractors, go back and watch it. I'll put a link in the description to all the videos reviewing these brands. The next caveat I want to put out is that there is no bad tractor. Every time I went to look at a tractor, every single time I left the lot or when the tractor left my property, I said, man, that's a nice tractor. And there's always something about it that I could say, this is the reason I would buy it. But every brand can't be put at the top of my list. So I'll give one quick example here, and that's Mahindra. When I went and looked at the Mahindra, I was really impressed with it. It doesn't have a DPF filter. It was heavier than the other machines. It was really well built. It had some mechanical features, which I tend to prefer some of the mechanical options over the electronic options. But I didn't put it in the top 5. That doesn't mean it's not a great machine. So if your favorite tractor's not on the list, doesn't mean I don't think it's a great machine. One more caveat is if 2 different brands are selling the exact same tractor, like Kioti and Bobcat are the same tractor, there's no way I would put both on the list. So I went with the brand that manufactures the tractor over the brand that rebrands it. So let's jump right into it. The 5th tractor that I would buy today would be Kioti. Either the NX 5400 or the MX 5400. I might be getting those model numbers mixed up, but I looked at both tractors and both had a really strong case to make. One was towards the lower end on price at around $43,000. I think the other one was maybe $53,000. But regardless, they were both really interesting tractors. You have the premium and the economy. I also want to say that people keep telling me my prices are wrong. Prices do vary across dealerships depending on where you live, when you're watching the video, but all of the prices I'm giving are for cab tractors. So that makes a big difference. If you say I only paid $35, well, I'm looking at a cab, so it's $44 for the same $35K tractor. So let's talk about Kioti, the positives. They're one of the tractors on my list, which almost all of them are, but they build the entire tractor from the ground up. The axle is a Kioti axle. The engine is a Kioti engine. The transmission is a Kioti transmission. All the way from the ground up. It's engineered to work together. They build the entire machine. That's a huge selling point. Number 2, they have a pretty decent dealer network that is growing all the time. Number 3 is a factor that I'm seeing, that I'm using as a metric that people wouldn't think of. Because you think price and quality and features and all these different things you're measuring. Another one is customer satisfaction. Because the last 4 years I've been making tractor videos for a living. And what that results in is thousands and thousands and thousands of comments from people telling me what they think of the tractor that they bought. And I've also went to multiple Kioti tractor owners' houses ran their tractors on their property and asked them what they thought of them, and published videos doing that. And what I find is I almost never encounter someone who's unhappy with their decision to purchase a Kioti. Another positive for Kioti is they've been doing this a long time. They're a huge company, and they're spread across multiple product lines. I'm confident that Kioti is not going anywhere. They're now making skid steers and zero-turn mowers and side-by-sides and a full range of tractors up to the ag tractors. They're really entrenched, and people who say it's just a copy of a Kubota have no idea what they're saying. One is Korean, the other is Japanese. There is no collaboration between them. There is no similarity between them. The only thing that Kioti and Kubota have in common is orange paint. That's it. And they didn't just pop onto the market 5 years ago. You may have only been seeing them for 5 years, but Kioti's been making machines. They're owned by Daejong, and they've been making equipment since 1947, and they've been selling tractors in the U.S. since 1986. That's 38 years of selling tractors in the U.S. So I have faith in the brand. It's a good machine. Number 4 tractor I would buy today, the Yanmar YT359. I published a video about 2 months ago, said that it was the best tractor that I would buy today, and there's truth to that, but it's not any more than number 1 tractor I would buy, and it's not because of the tractor. So Yanmar can tell the same story as Kioti, and really all the tractors on this list. They engineer the machine from the ground up. And they don't just go cookie cutter and say, well, let's just make something like everyone else is making that's popular. They have that innovative IMHT transmission that isn't really a hydrostat, and it's not really a gear drive like you think about it. They do a lot of things really well on that tractor. I enjoyed running it. I think it's a great company. They're Japanese engineering, and I would be glad to buy that tractor. But I didn't put them higher on my list for a few specific reasons. Number 1, even though Yanmar's been making equipment for 100 years, they've been making tractors for a long time, they have not been in the U.S. market that long. They had tractors in the U.S., then they partnered with John Deere, and they made the John Deere compacts during the 80s and 90s. Then they stopped making those. That deal ended, and they didn't establish a strong presence in the U.S. And honestly, it feels like Yanmar does not put much effort into marketing their tractors in the U.S. market. And because of that, they don't have the kind of dealer network you'd like to see. And I don't have as strong a feeling for the dealer support you're going to get in the U.S. market. Another thing I don't like about Yanmar overall is having their own proprietary quick connect system on their loaders for the small compacts. On the big ones, I love the design. On the small ones, it's not even always made by Yanmar. Some of their Yanmar compacts are made by TYM, and some of their small compacts have what was described to me as a European quick attach, and you're going to have a hard time finding implements. So you've got skid steer quick attach on most brands, and John Deere has their own proprietary system, but they sell so many tractors that every manufacturer offers the John Deere version. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find this alternate version that Yanmar has. Number 3, John Deere. And you guys know that I've got John Deere equipment. The whole channel was built off John Deere equipment. 2 John Deere stand-on mowers, a John Deere 2 Series tractor, a John Deere skid steer, and a John Deere Antique 1941A. And that's all I had. But I think John Deere, in some ways, is missing the mark right now. And I will tell you, stop right here. I did a poll that had 1,500 votes on it for, what do you think is the best tractor brand? And Kubota was number 1 with 34%, and John Deere had like 29%. And then Kioti was like 19, and TYM was like 13. But so that wasn't a completely fair poll because I could only put 5 choices. So your favorite brand might not have even been on the list. But what it tells you is that currently with the average consumer, John Deere and Kubota are at the top. So let's talk about the good and the bad with John Deere. I think there are some things John Deere engineers better than any other company. On my tractor, it is the way the backhoe hooks up. I know every company has a quick connect backhoe. The John Deere system is much better. Like the mid-mount mower. These are just details and examples, not the specific things I'm looking for. But the mid-mount mower is not only a drive over, but an auto connect. You don't have to manually connect the PTO, it just does it for you. There are a bunch of things. When I run my tractor compared to any other tractor I've ever been on, I feel like it's the most ergonomic, well-designed tractor out there. The loader joystick functionality is perfect. Not pretty good, but perfect. The way it feels when you drive it, everything is just right. I also like that it's American engineered from an American company, and even though the parts are sourced from all over the world and assembled in the US, that's the same story for all the other brands. But I like that it's American engineered. I give that just a little bit of a bump. Now, why is John Deere not number one? Number one, I think their pricing is ridiculous. It's stupid. I'm looking at tractors 35, 39, 43, 45, 53, then John Deere is 60. It feels like the range of tractor prices for a tractor this size goes from 35 to 53, and John Deere, why are you at 60? And I can't get an answer. So that's a negative. The next negative, they don't design them to lift as much as some of the other brands. So you're paying more, but you're getting less capacity. Third reason, the cab is too small. It's the smallest cab that I was in on any tractor that I looked at. It's a little bit cramped, and I don't know why, but it's a 3 Series cab on a 4 Series tractor. So I would be proud and glad to own a 4066 or a 4075, but that's not what I went with. Second, Kubota. Shocker. You guys have always given me a hard time for being anti-Kubota. Well, I'm tilting really heavily towards one thing. Everyone I talk to loves their Kubota. I've not one time found a person who owned a Kubota tractor said, yeah, I didn't really like it. Not once. Their insurance is phenomenal. Customer service is phenomenal. Their dealer network is right there with John Deere. And I think I may have glossed over that. With John Deere, what you get, positive, is the largest dealer network in the country, largest parts availability in the country, huge customer service options. I'm going to go back to John Deere for just a minute. John Deere has all this stuff going for them. Their parts are always available. They're not going anywhere. They've got this huge dealer network, all these positive things. But I'm with other people who are upset with the company decision to do the right to repair thing and make it harder for people to get access to their schematics on their tractor. Now, I think some of it's overblown in that people will say it as if you can't come out here and just fix your tractor. That's not it at all. They won't tell you the proprietary information about the engineering and the computer system on your tractor that most people aren't going to work on. But there are people who need that information and can't get it. So that's a negative. But let's go back to Kubota. Kubota would be second place or right there tied with John Deere for dealer network, customer service, parts availability, all those things. And just everyone I've ever spoken to who had a Kubota tractor loved that tractor. And it's hard to get past it. And they're number one in sales. There has to be a reason. Why did a Japanese company 25, 30 years ago take over the compact tractor market when people weren't looking to replace John Deere? Why did that happen? It has to be because they built a good machine. Now, I will say the negative is glaring, and I really struggled with this. I thought at one point I might leave Kubota and John Deere just off my list because they're too expensive. They are ridiculously expensive. And I almost said, you know what? I'm not even putting a tractor that overpriced on my list. But then I can't get past, what if it's just factually the best machine engineered from the ground up by Kubota? So I would really like to have one of those Kubota tractors, the L5460 or the MX5400. I'm not sure if that MX is the right. It doesn't matter. The two tractors I talked about in my Kubota review recently. I'm bad with details and forgetting little things like the model number. But it has to mean something that people love their Kubota tractors. I mentioned the price and threw it in there real quick, but I said that I think every other tractor falls in a range between $35,000 and $53,000. Kubota, the L5460 with a cab, is $63,000, so $3,000 more than a John Deere. It's crazy. I didn't know what to do with them on my list. It's crazy expensive, but maybe the best machine, maybe it justifies it. That's for every individual person to answer themselves. So now we're going to talk about the number one tractor that I would buy in 2024. It's the tractor sitting right behind the camera, and there are a whole list of reasons I think it's number one. But before I do that, I want to give a disclaimer about sponsorship. So over the last 2 years, I've been pursuing a sponsorship with tractor manufacturers. I've tried with a bunch of different brands. I've had conversations. I've had brands reach out to me. I've had multiple offers to have tractors brought here for long-term demos. I've actually been offered by 2 different brands to be paid to make videos about their tractors. And for different reasons, none of those have worked out, and I've turned them down, or whatever the case may be. And I'm not going to go into details on what the brands were or why it didn't work out, but I've had opportunities to partner directly with tractor manufacturers, and to this point, I have not done that. But also, I did not buy the tractor that's sitting behind you. I've partnered with a local dealership instead of a manufacturer, and this dealership carries 3 brands of tractors, like 5 brands of lawnmowers, and all kinds of other equipment. And I'm going to have access to demonstrate any equipment that that dealership has. And right now, I have a 1-year agreement that the tractor behind the camera will be here for a year. But I did not pick this tractor because it was the only offer I had. I picked it because I think it is the number one brand that I would buy today, and it's not close. If I was buying a tractor today, paying cash with no YouTube channel, I have no doubt in my mind this is the tractor I would go with. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. So what's behind you right here? Well, let me just show you. Dun dun dun! The TYM 574. Now, I imagine I'm going to catch some flack for this. People saying, oh, there's all these YouTube channels sponsored by TYM. And TYM Corporate has sponsored a lot of YouTube channels. But that doesn't change the reasons that I think this is the best tractor option on the market. And there are a bunch of those reasons. Let's go through them. Number one reason is not the one you're guessing. The number one reason is the engine design. This engine in this tractor is now, I believe, branded as a TYM engine. But previously, for a long time, this has been called a Kukje engine. Kukje engines are built off the Cummins platform, and they are very different than any other engine in any other tractor on the market. And there's a video that I'm going to put in the description that I think you should watch because it will explain it better than me. The video is titled Kukje versus Everybody Else, and it explains the huge difference in engine design that make these more simple and, in my opinion and their opinion, more reliable. And I'm all in on that engine design. What it is a mechanical fuel injection instead of a computer-controlled fuel injection system that has tons and tons fewer parts. Much, much, much less electronics, much less to go wrong. The other tractors cannot operate without their computer properly operating, whereas this one can run without a computer. The second reason is really obvious, and that is the price. Kubota, $63,000. John Deere, $60,000. And before you scoff at these numbers, I've looked at them. They are comparable tractors in every way in my mind. There are little differences here and there, but they're comparable. Kubota, $63,000. John Deere, $60,000. The Yanmar was in the mid-50s. The New Holland was in the 50s. The Mahindra that I looked at wasn't a perfectly direct comparison, but it was 50. The Kioti, 45. The LS, 39. This is a $35,000 tractor. What do you say to that? And what you probably say is, well, it's because it's a cheap Chinese knockoff. Well, that's not true. It's a Korean-built tractor, just like the Kioti is, just like the LS. And I've ran these machines. I've ran a lot of TYM machines. I ran them with Daniel Arms. I ran them with Tony's Tractor Adventure. I've went to people's houses multiple times and ran these tractors. Then I've had this one on my property for the last week. And I'm telling you, this feels like a better built machine to me. That's a real answer. That's really how I feel about it. Before we move on from the pricing conversation, I want to put this into perspective. When someone says $63,000 is a better deal than $35,000 because I trust the product more, everyone can make their own choices. But to put that into perspective, the TYM 2515 is about $20,000. This is about $35,000. Add those together. I could buy two tractors with massive capabilities that do different purposes on my property and still be $8,000 under, and I could buy a tiller and a box blade and a brush cutter and two tractors for the price of that Kubota. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. The third reason for TYM as a brand, not this specific tractor, is that TYM was a competitive tractor brand that I had a lot of interest in. Then they acquired Branson tractors, and Branson tractors were very unique in the market compared to anything else. Just like TYM is unique with their engine design, Branson was different than everyone else in tractor design. And they had some real strong tractors with real strong selling points, and those are now TYM tractors. So within the TYM line, you have this huge variety of options that are strong in different ways. So I feel like the Kioti tractor and the LS tractor were the most similar of any two things I've looked at. There was so much similarity that you almost couldn't tell which was Kioti and which was LS other than the paint color. If Kioti had purchased LS or LS had purchased Kioti, I don't feel like it adds that much to the brand. But Branson and TYM were different, distinctly different machines, and both are still available under the TYM name. So what are the negatives for this machine? I don't know. It lifts more than anything else in the class. #1 in lift capacity. It's got bigger tires. The cab sits a little higher. I've got better visibility of the bucket. And it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. If we go back and we look at Kioti, #5 on my list, they had a bunch of optional features on their tractor that I didn't even mention in this video, because what I've decided over time is that I don't care nearly as much as those features. John Deere has the E-Hydro, and it's got all these buttons and settings and load match and speed match and this kind of cruise control, and the Kioti does too. I decided I don't care. Kubota, in a lot of their models, uses less of that. If I was getting the Kubota, it wouldn't be the L5460, it would be that MX or M5400 that didn't have all those bells and whistles and cost $10,000 less. That's my preference. That's why I like the Mahindra. More simple. This is more simple. Now, I told you at the beginning that I had a special offer for this tractor. Jake from the Tractor Yard has announced that he's going to offer this tractor right here for $34,500 with $1 a mile shipping. So if you live 500 miles from here, you can get this tractor shipped to your door for $35,000, and I bet you can't pick it up at your local dealer for that. Crazy offer, but I've partnered with Jake from the Tractor Yard. He provided this tractor to me. I don't own it. He's not paying me, but I have it for the next year to make videos about, which is awesome. I've also got access to the other tractors in his lineup, and I can show LS, I can show Bad Boy at his lot, and he's a very knowledgeable dealer who can provide and add value to the content I put on the channel. We've got a lot of videos planned to explain how certain things work on a tractor, or what lift capacity really is versus what it's listed as, and I think it's going to be a great partnership with a good friend. I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.